We are recording the interview of Earl Lanning. This interview is being conducted by Ericka Carter from the Wright State University Veterans Voices Project. This interview is being recorded at Holiday Inn, located at 2800 Presidential Drive in Dayton, Ohio. It is 11:27 a.m. on June 8th, 2019. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Fantastic. Where and when were you born?
May 11th, 1940, Murray City in southern Ohio.
Who were your parents and what were their occupations?
My father was Willard J. Lanning. My mother was Ella Lorraine Lanning, or Conkey. Her maiden name was Conkey. Her maiden name Lanning, but my dad was a coal miner at the time I was born, and coal mine business went out of business, so he took his family and moved to Cleveland, Ohio, and became a machinist. So I was raised in the Cleveland area, along Lake Erie.
It's chilly up there.
No, not bad. Get a little snow sometimes.
Just a little. Okay. Did you have any siblings?
Yes, I was number 4 in a family of 10 siblings.
So just a few.
Yeah.
Just a few.
You know, I wore hand-me-down clothes till I started school, but all the older ones were girls. I was the only guy I knew that wore dresses. You know, life's not easy for a guy that wears dresses.
Maybe not.
It was a little rough.
Even back then, huh?
Yeah, well, you know how kids are. It's funny. Funny now. Wasn't funny then, but you know.
Very true. Okay. What were you doing before you entered the service?
Well, actually, I was in school, but I quit school in the 11th grade.
Did any of your siblings join?
Military?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I had one brother that was in the Navy.
How many brothers did you have?
There was 4 boys, 6 girls.
All younger than you?
3 of the girls were older than me, but all the rest of them were all younger.
All the boys, okay. So
and my brothers were quite a few years younger, because this was during the Second World War, you know. My dad was gone. He went off to fight in the Second World War. So.
What branch was he in?
He was Army. He was a medic.
Did he choose that job, or was it chosen for him? Do you know?
I think it was chosen for him. He was drafted. At the time he was drafted, he had 5 children, you know, just. He had 4 girls and me. Then after the war was over, he came back and had the rest of them, you know, just.
Happy to be home.
I have my youngest brother. I took my mother to the hospital to deliver him before I went overseas. I was already in the military, and he was born after I joined the military. So, but he was the first one to die.
Oh.
Esophageal cancer at the age of 38. So.
Very sorry to hear that.
2 months after he died, my oldest sister stepped in front of a car and got run over, killed, down in Florida. It was rough. Him I expected, her I didn't expect. I just.
The family was grieving a lot.
So then one of my brothers, the one that closest to my age, he died of liver cancer a couple of years ago, up in Wisconsin. And my only surviving brother lives in Wisconsin right now.
You guys like the snow.
Yeah. You know, I don't, you know, my mother and father separated, so my mother was living in Florida and my father moved up to Wisconsin, all right?
Okay.
So, you know, they never divorced, they just chose not to live together anymore, you know, mutual agreement. Now, who knows, you know? They still loved each other, but, you know, I can't speak for them, you know.
Sometimes I love you at a distance.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
My father died on his 84th birthday.
Oh.
Imagine that. My mother died when she was 58, so, you know.
That's young. Okay. So you got out of school in the 11th grade. It just wasn't for you?
Well, yeah, I would have to understand. I always got good grades. I never studied, never carried a book home. All right, always got A's and B's. My sisters were always mad at me. Why? How do you do that? I said, well, I do the work while I'm in school, while I'm listening to it. So I'll do it while the teacher's talking, you know, and I'll have my homework done before I leave the class. You know, so my sisters all carrying books home, you know. How do you do that? So just pay attention. But, you know, I figured I'd learned all I wanted to learn in school, all right? So I got out and went in the construction trade, building homes. Of course, I started in the bottom, digging ditches. You know, you had to start somewhere. Mm-hmm. And graduated up to running the machine that dug the ditches, and then later on, hammer and nail on the apron and up on the roof. You know, that's what I was doing before I went in the military.
Okay. What caused you to go into the military?
I don't know, just wanted to travel.
And what year did you join?
It was June of 1957.
Why did you pick the Air Force?
My friend went in the Air Force.
Did you go in on a buddy system?
Well, he tried to get me. He went in, he was too young. Forged his birth certificate, got it. Well, they caught him and they sent him home. But he was so great, you know, he talked me into joining, because he went back in when he came of age. So, you know, that was part of it, you know, just. And he said that he got to travel. You know, I wanted to travel. I was a traveling man. I didn't want to sit around the house.
And you were 17?
17, yeah.
Okay. And that was legal age then?
No, I had to have my parents sign.
Were they happy to get rid of you?
Well, my dad said, you know, I'll sign twice. I said, well, that's exactly what you have to do is sign twice right there. So,
okay.
No, I don't know if they were happy to get rid of me, but, you know, large family, you know, of course it's more money for the rest of them, but, you know.
You sent your checks home?
Well, sometimes, you know, not all the time.
Okay.
I can still remember my first paycheck in the military.
How much was it?
$66.
Was that big money?
It was for a month. Yeah, that was big money.
Okay.
Back then, $66 was big money, yeah.
Okay.
Didn't go very far, though.
What'd you do with it?
The DI took us down to BX and told us what to buy. We had to buy stuff for inspection, stuff we didn't use, all right? Never use it. He says, you never use this, just stick it in your foot locker and it's display only. So, you know, just so you could pass inspections, but, you know, it's military branch life. First haircut, I can remember the first haircut. How do you want it cut? Yeah, they cut it right straight down the middle. No hair at all, everybody looked the same. Bald head.
I still have my stuff. My locker inspection stuff.
Do you really?
I do.
Mm.
I do. I saved it for my grandkids if I ever get any. Anyway.
Well, mine got lost over the years. It was a long time ago. For me.
Well, yeah. Maybe I'll lose mine one day. So you go to basic. Where's basic?
Lackland Air Force Base, San Antonio, Texas.
Did you have any trouble adapting to military life?
You had to be disciplined. I mean, you know, you had to learn their discipline. You know, if you didn't do what they wanted, you know, they kind of wanted everybody to fall in line, everybody to be treated the same. It was kind of tough at first. You know, you got to know what they wanted and what they didn't want, right? Anything to get through. But I spent 4 weeks of basic training. and then they shipped me out to go to advanced training.
You only had 4 weeks of basic?
Right.
Not 6?
No, 4 weeks. Then they sent me to a training base where I was to go into my profession, after all the tests we did. And they figured that I'd be a good mechanic on airplanes, so they sent me to that school. I went to Shepherd Air Force Base in Texas. All right. And then I finished 11 weeks of basic military training there. School in the morning, basic training in the afternoon. So, yeah, I got my time in for training.
Did you want to be a mechanic? Was that something that you were interested in?
Yes, but I didn't want to be an aircraft mechanic. I wanted to be automotive.
Since then, have you found that it's terribly different? Have you worked on cars since?
Not really, only my own cars. But, basically, engines are all the same. I don't care if it's a diesel or gas engine, or if it's a radial engine, or it's a V12 or a V6 or a 4-cylinder. Basically, they're the same.
In comes the gas, out comes the power.
They got to have air and fuel,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it.
Okay. Yeah, airplane mechanics get paid more, though.
Yeah, you might say that.
Like $100
Yeah,
more
yeah.
per hour. I've noticed that as a car mechanic, as a diesel mechanic. Anyway, okay. So training is done with. You passed with flying colors, I assume.
Well, I got by. I phased back.
Oh, uh-oh.
3rd week, electrical. I just couldn't understand them little guys running through that little tunnel. But I did. I phased back, and they told me if I didn't pass the next phase that I was going to cook school. So I passed the next phase. So
Yeah.
I didn't want to be a cook.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, so I finished my training there and got my first duty assignment.
Which was where?
A place called Detachment 20 Tuslog in Turkey,
Turkey.
Izmir, Turkey.
Okay.
And I was there, and if you were single, it was a 2-year tour. If you were married, it was only a year and a half. But I wasn't married, so I got a 2-year tour.
So you said you wanted to travel. Was that your choice of base, or that's just where they sent you?
No, that's just where they sent me.
Were you excited about that?
Well, apprehensive would be more word, you don't have any rank, you only have one striper, when you come out of school, you got one stripe, so you're like a PFC, you're at the bottom of the food chain. You're one step above a basic, all right? The basic is a slick sleeve. So yeah, I was apprehensive, I didn't know what to expect, but the outfit we were in, we carried dignitaries around. Heads of state. The aircraft we worked on were, kept and maintained and polished, and dignitaries flew on them. Heads of state, like I say, high-ranking generals, and wherever our airplanes went, we went. So it was great. I did a lot of flying, a lot of travel. I enjoyed that. All around the Mediterranean Sea. Countries: Greece, Athens, Rome, Italy, Naples, France, Nour-sur, the French Morocco, Libya, big air base in Libya. All right, it was exciting, just seeing how other people live. You wouldn't understand what someone's going through if you didn't see it for yourself, what they were going through, how they were trying to make ends meet and survive. And to everybody I ever ran across in all my travels in the military, overseas, we were rich. Because we acted that way, we spent money. We had it, we spent it. So to them, even me, I didn't make a lot of money, but to their standards of living, I was a millionaire. So they wanted some of that life, and they wanted to know how to go about getting it. I met a lot of people.
How did your parents feel about their baby being all the way over in Turkey?
I don't know how they felt. There was very little communication.
Really?
Very little communication with family after I went in the military.
Is there a particular reason for that?
Well, my dad was an alcoholic. That's probably one of the reasons why I left home. I didn't want to be in that environment. But, I wrote to my mother, and, but none of my sisters or brothers ever wrote me. So, the contact to them was just lost for two years while I was gone. When I came home, they were all glad to see me,
Do you have a favorite memory of being in Turkey or Greece or flying with a dignitary?
Well, there's a lot of memories, a lot of lapses too. You forget a lot of things that happen. You try to remember the good things. You don't remember the bad things that happen to you. You wash them out of your memory. You try to remember the good things. I think when I was young, I was 17, 18 years old. I'm over there, I'm a teenager. I liked the way the next door neighbor girl would giggle whenever I come out on the balcony. See, we didn't have a base. We lived downtown. So, I lived in a hotel for 6 weeks at government expense. They told me I had to get out of the hotel and get a place to live. So 4 of us went together and rented an apartment. We were on the 2nd floor. And that apartment next to us was a Turkish family, Muslims. And she'd come out there and talk to me at night. I'd be on the balcony. Then they invited us over to eat. So, mostly they wanted to ask questions. They're very protective of the women, the guys out there. Mm-hmm. So you didn't get too friendly with them, Actually, we weren't even supposed to talk to them most of the time. I'd say, I had fond memories over there. Some things we did was, to me and to us, it was funny at the time, but it was, it was very serious. Like kids coming up begging for chocolate, so you give them a box of feeding mix, extracts, And watch a kid run down the street trying to get to a toilet.
Good times for a young
little
kid.
things, but
Okay. So, good 2 years learning the ropes, doing the mechanic thing, having a nice time.
Yeah, doing a lot of studying. I found out from early that, if you wanted to get ahead in the military, you had to have some education. So I took the GED test there at Izmir and was top of the class in Europe. I was in the top 5 all of Europe. That's something to me.
It is.
So I achieved that goal, getting my college or my high school diploma, right? I call it diploma. I didn't get my high school diploma until after I came back from Vietnam. Wrote my school, which the school was closed, but they looked at my records and issued me a diploma. Looking at my GED scores and everything. But, in the military, I took every class I could that was offered that would help enhance my chances of being promoted.
Did someone tell you to do that, or you just took that upon yourself?
No, I figured that out on my own.
Okay.
I figured, the guys that were getting promoted were doing the education. So I figured if I wanted to get ahead, I had to do that. So I did it.
Okay. And when did you get your first promotion?
Geez. I was gonna say, it was hard, rank was hard back then. It was peacetime. Peacetime military the rank is kind of tight. Wartime, it just opens wide open. Wartime, you can shoot right through the ranks in no time, depending on your history. I think I got promoted, let's see, I think it was December of 60 or 58. I got my next stripe, 2-stripe, so I was a 2-striper, or corporal, if you want to use them terms, for if you use an Army military jargon, I've been a corporal, but I call it Airman Second Class.
Okay, you can use the right rank.
So I was promoted Airman Second Class.
Okay.
Then I came home. I was stationed in a place called Newburgh, New York, Stewart Air Force Base.
Okay.
All right?
I know about Stewart.
Okay, did you?
Uh-huh.
West Point Military Academy is right down the street. I met my wife there.
What did she do?
Well, she was a factory worker. Clothing, mostly. Seamstress, I guess you call it seamstress. They made clothes. So.
How'd you meet her?
Oh, jeez.
Okay, you don't have to answer that.
No, it's a funny story.
Oh, okay.
My best friend was going with her.
Uh-huh.
And he went on a flight from Stewart down to North Carolina, paratrooper jump school down there. We were working on C-119 boxcars, and the troop carriers, and that's what the men jumped out of the back of them, and the parachutes.
Uh-huh.
So he was down there, and they were, doing what they were doing. And so the day that they left to come back home, the airplane and the crew, they crashed on takeoff. So he was injured down there, and he got a hold of me. He says, "Would you go tell Beverly that I'll not be able to make it for a while? I'm laid up." So I went, and I told her, wherever he told me to meet her at. And I says, "Well, Herb was in the airplane wreck. He's not going to be around for a while." She said, "So what?" I said, "What?" So what? But, I just kind of shrugged that off and went up to the bar and sat down and was sitting there drinking a beer. And she come out and asked me to dance. So it's all started from there. But when he came back, he was no longer my best friend. Kind of ruined a friendship, but I got a better friendship.
Okay.
And with that one was 58 years.
Well, congratulations on that.
So, yeah.
What's your favorite plane to work on?
My favorite plane? Well, I was primarily worked on C-47s. It's a cargo ship. But I've worked on a lot of different airplanes. I was a crew chief on C-47s. That was, my nomenclature even, before I went to Vietnam. My favorite airplane, I guess, wouldn't be that one. Would be the A-1E Sky Raider in Vietnam. It was a Navy airplane. And that's what I was a crew chief on over there.
Okay.
During the war.
So let's start talking about Vietnam.
Well, there was time between there, we can talk about Vietnam, but I left New York, my wife, and we went over to Philippine Islands for 2 years.
Whoa, I'm sorry.
Yeah, after I got married.
Oh, okay, I apologize. When I looked at your dates, I saw 57 to 59. I don't know how you were in the military for a while.
12 years.
Okay. I apologize for that. I need to put on my glasses.
Okay.
Okay.
But
I was like, that didn't make sense.
We left.
So you met your wife?
My wife married, had 2 children.
At the same base at Stewart?
Yeah, they were both born at the military academy hospital, because our base did not have a hospital. All we had was a clinic.
Boy and girl? Girl, boy, boy, boy?
Girl first, then boy.
Okay.
So, and then they shipped me out to a place, Philippine Islands, Clark Air Base. And I took my wife. Well, I had to wait for her. It took about 6 months for her to get over there. But she came over with the kids by herself, and we lived there together for a year and a half.
Okay.
We left there and we were sent to a place called Technical Headquarters, Langley Air Force Base, Virginia. All right. There I was designated as C-47 crew chief. In the Philippine Islands, though, we worked on every aircraft that came out of Southeast Asia, the war. all right? The war was just starting to build up then. So, you know, it was just starting to get involved. So when I was at Langley, I was only there for 11 months, and they decided to ship me to Vietnam. So when I got to Vietnam, they made me an A-1E crew chief. It's a fighter attack aircraft. So,
How did you enjoy the Philippines?
Philippines? Oh, it was great. I loved it. My wife loved it. She had a housemaid and a yard boy, and she didn't do much, you know. She had a lot of free time, but she learned how to cook a lot of different kind of meals that they ate, all right? They taught her how to fix their meals, you know, so she kind of raised us on that stuff. I had a great time in the Philippines. I really, you know, like I say, my wife really loved it. I loved it.
Okay. How was the weather compared to the States?
It was hot. It was. It never got cold. No, it'd be a wet hot or a dry hot.
Did you
almost like Southeast Asia? Their seasons, they don't call them like we do summer, winter, you know, or fall. Or they had 2 seasons, a dry monsoon and a wet monsoon. So depending on the year, you know, or time of year, you're either wet all the time or hot the rest of the time. You're still wet.
Did your money go further there?
Yes, ma'am, it sure did.
Okay. And you like save for kids' college down here, right?
Yeah, I was thinking about saving back then. You know.
Life was good. Okay, so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just a little curious about that. So you leave the Philippines, you go up to New York, right?
No, Langley Air Force Base.
Langley, okay.
So my wife and children, we had our 3rd child at Langley Air Force Base, a boy.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was, I don't know, 3 months old when I got orders to ship out to Vietnam. So I went to Vietnam, and my family returned to New York. It was her hometown, so she went back up there, you know. And we didn't get any help from anybody, you know. If it wasn't for our families, you know, our families would have had a really hard time. But her family lived there, so, you know, they kind of watched over until I came home. So I went to Vietnam, and they would put me in a Air Commando outfit. That's what this hat's for. It's an Air Commando outfit, all right? And a lot of things we did, we weren't allowed to write home about. A lot of places I went, I could not write home about. Sometimes my wife didn't hear from me for 2 or 3 months because I wasn't allowed to tell where I was at or what I was doing.
Could you drop her a note that says, I'm alive,
No,
I love you?
No contact. Everything was secret.
That had to be horrible.
It was tough. It was horrible.
Could she write you still?
Yeah, she could write. Sometimes the mail would get to us, sometimes not. You know, it all depended on where we were at. So I think I left Vietnam in October 68. 67, I'm sorry, October 67. I left Pleiku and we went to the secret war over in Nacompanel. And we had no contact with family for the 2 months I was over there. 2.5 months. I couldn't even contact her to know where I was coming home. She knew I was due back. So I left there right around the first year. Went down to, I think it was January, that was December, between Christmas and New Year's. I went down to Bangkok and I was supposed to fly home and get back home on New Year's Day. Our flight was delayed 24 hours. I tried to call home, couldn't get through. So I said, well, I'll call when I get the States. So we took off with the States. We celebrated New Year's over the ocean with coffee. Not a lot of drink. No, you're not allowed to drink on a military flight. So when we landed at Frisco, I said, well, I'll call my wife and let her know when I'm coming into New York. Let her know I'm back home anyway. We got off the airplane and they said they had an airplane going to New York and leaving in 15 minutes. I didn't get a chance to call. I took that airplane ride. I wanted to get home. So I arrived at Kennedy Airport, mind you, wearing a short sleeve summer uniform, and it was January 1st. It was 22 below zero when I got to New York. And I called my wife and said, come and get me. I didn't even have a coat to put on. It was in my duffel bag. I couldn't get my overcoat on it. I didn't want to unpack that duffel bag just for the overcoat. But it was cold, you know. She said, where are you? I said, I'm at Kennedy Airport. So she had to get her brother-in-law, her sister's husband, to drive her down there to pick me up. But she hadn't heard from me from over 2.5 months. Yeah, they were glad to see me. And I was glad to be home.
Did you have a warm reception, or were people okay, nice, or like other civilians at the airports and things like that?
No, I came back from Vietnam and let's see, 58, 59. I'm sorry, 67, 68. 68 come back, all right? Now, this war protesters didn't really start until around 70. So I was already back home. But, you know, no one really accepted us when we got back home. You know, I didn't want anybody to know I was over there. Because of the receptions that we got, the feelings you get, you know. If you said you were in Vietnam, you know, and then all them protests started out there in Berkeley. So, you know, and it got pretty rough for the guys coming back after I came back. But I didn't feel welcome. I didn't. None of the veterans organizations want to have anything to do with us. The VFW flat refused to let us join. Veterans of Foreign Wars, they didn't want us. But then later on, they wanted you because all the older people were dying off, you know, Korean War vets and the World War II vets, and they were losing membership. So they finally said, okay, we'll accept you Vietnam War vets. So, you know, you had to understand it was undeclared, you know, we weren't in a really declared war. It was a conflict. It was like Korea. My brother-in-law went to Korea and got wounded in Korea in the Chosun Reservoir. And then he went to Vietnam and got wounded in Vietnam. All right? And the wound in Vietnam put him out of the service. But he couldn't get a Purple Heart for Vietnam because it was not a declared war. We were advisors. When I first went to Vietnam, I went there as an advisor to the Vietnam Air Force. All right? We were advisors. We were supposed to give them help and information, but they were building up at that time. So all of a sudden here I am in Vietnam, and 400 sergeants showed up at the same time at this base. 400 of us. Well, they didn't have that many airplanes Air Force to work on. We did everything, you know, guard duty, whatever, you know, just. I felt fortunate to be able to go to work on an aircraft that I didn't even know, a Navy airplane, all right, A1E Skyraider. Whoever heard of A1E Skyraider? Had a tail hook on it. What is that used for, you know? You know, it's a Navy airplane. So you had to learn it. Everybody had to learn it, but, you know, I felt fortunate to be able to work on that. The airplanes I worked on, I normally would have worked on would have been a Spooky or a gunship, you know. AC-47. Not that airplane I knew. But how many positions can you fill with 400 guys? All sergeants, by the way. We were replacing guys that had 1 and 2 stripes, all right? They served their time, they broke us in. Younger guys, they broke us in. And I think the hardest part about Vietnam is the constant feeling that you were going to die. Okay, then mortar fire every night, about 2 o'clock in the morning. You know, just to keep you awake, you know. You had to get up and get into a bunker, get out of your bed. When I got there, I lived in a tent, 12-man tent. Of course, there was no tarp left on it. They'd replaced it with sheet metal roof and a screened windows so the mosquitoes and stuff wouldn't eat you alive. No ventilation, no air conditioning. It was hot. You were either hot and wet or cold and wet. 2 seasons there, monsoons, dry and hot, or dry and cold, or dry and wet. Rainy season. You went to bed, take your wet clothes off and hang them up. You get up in the morning and you put your driest wet clothes on. The driest ones you could find. Then you wore them. And it rained constant, day and night for 6 weeks on end. It never let up. How do you get used to that environment? How do you get used to shaking your shoes off and make sure the snakes aren't in there? You know, that snake's over to kill you. I mean, instantly. Bamboo vipers. And everything came in out of the rain, you know. The animals, the critters, they didn't want the rain either. They come in to live with you, you know. So in the morning, you know, it was, you know, just had to be careful, you know, especially when you didn't put your shoes on without shaking. You know, make sure there's nothing in there. A lot of times, sometimes there were, you know, they can get in there and curl up and get warm, you know, in your wet boot. But you know, that was difficult. To me, that was difficult. That was a hard thing to get used to. Meals. You never knew when you was going to get a hot meal. Most times you're eating sea rations, a cardboard box, you know, can opener. I still got a P-38. You know what a P-38 is?
Explain, please.
Okay, I'll show you. You know, I still got it. Carried it to this day. P-38.
Do you look at it to enjoy every meal you get?
It's a can opener. All right, and that's the designation is a P-38. It still works. You can still open cans with it.
It doesn't cut your pocket?
That little thing like that. Oh, it folds up. It's so, you know, but if it's supposed to lock down there and you snap it open, but it's wore out.
Let me see.
Sure.
So this is a,
See, it's supposed to stay open when you flip it open, but the hinge, it's wore out. I used it a lot, all right?
Did one come in every meal, or is this
sometimes,
just...
But sometimes you get a meal that didn't have a can opener, how do you get at your meal? That's why I carry that. And I can get in cans nowadays. It just takes a little work, but it's still sharp, it still works. But you know, you don't carry it for memento, you know, you carry it to use. A lot of times, you know, a lot of meals that didn't have can openers in them. They expected, you know. But it was better than, I couldn't eat a lot of the food that they served in our mess halls anyway, you know, the recombined eggs. You ever eat a recombined egg? When they mix it with water and make the powder into something that they can cook?
Yes.
They're green. You ever eat green eggs? They turn green when you put water in and mix it up.
No, they managed to keep ours yellow, but it still tasted funny.
Well, yeah, like eating sand. So days when they didn't have fresh eggs, and it was not very often we got fresh eggs. If they had scrambled eggs, I went and ate SOS. chipped beef on toast, you know. That I could handle. Of course, we didn't call it SOS. We didn't call it chipped beef. We call it other things. Still here and there. I don't want to specify what we call it.
Okay.
You could say same old stuff, all right?
Well, you know, for history accuracy, you should tell us what. Yeah.
They call it shit on a shingle.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Okay, that's SOS. All
Okay,
right?
I've heard of that.
SOS. You know, you could eat that.
Okay.
All right, because it was made with hamburger and gravy. They made gravy, and yeah, that was palatable. You could eat that, all right. Them eggs, them powdered eggs, I couldn't eat them. Chicken, I love chicken. When they serve chicken, you know what they ask for when you serve chicken? You go and they ask for the wings. Nobody wants the wings. They all want the big pieces of chicken. So you ask for wings, they pile your plate full high with wings. You get more chicken than my guys ever thought of getting, you know. Just had to work a little harder to get it off the bone. But, you know, yeah, I'd go through, yeah, give me the chicken wings. Load your plate up. Because nobody wanted them. Now everybody wants them. You know, they're barbecued, you know. Everybody cooks them now. They're expensive now if you buy them, you know.
The thighs are still cheap, though.
The who?
Thighs.
I don't know.
Go get
I
some
always
thighs.
I always kind of like the white meat. My wife eats dark meat. All right, she likes thighs and legs.
Yeah.
I like wings, breasts. I'll eat thighs. I don't like the leg. I don't know why. When we were young in a family of 10, we ate a lot of chicken. You know, when you come from a big family like that, times are tough. I ate a lot of beans. I ate every kind of bean you could think of. It was cheap, you know, beans. Bacon. Back then they call it fatback, all right? Slab bacon. Cut off a slab, throw it in a pot of water with beans. Yeah, that was all the meat you ever got, you know.
I do know.
Yeah, one of my sisters said she never knew that there was any other meat on a chicken than the back, because that's all she ever got, you know. You know, she wasn't fast enough to grab a chicken leg or a thigh, or, you know. Yeah, she didn't know there was other parts of chicken. She laughs about that, you know, and joke about it. She's a couple of years younger than I am.
Can you tell me what were some of the other duties you might have had when you were deployed? So you worked on the Navy airplane. What are some of the other things that you did?
Well, over in Vietnam, we carried a weapon, and we were prepared to use it. And a lot of nights you were sitting out there. The first night I went to work, and I was working nights from 4 o'clock till midnight. That was my shift. Because we worked around the clock all the time on airplanes. They were going at night, going at day, going all the time. But so nighttime, you know, and nighttime we got a lot of activity that goes on around the base. Base sirens go off to warn you when you're under attack or when your attack is imminent. So when the sirens go off, you automatically grabbed your weapon and your ammunition and ran to a post where you were stationed. That was where you were supposed to be, sandbags, you know, we call it a bunker. And you're sitting in there, the bunker's only about, it's shorter than this table, all right? So you're actually sitting on the ground in the sandbags, and you can see over the sand of your head bags. The only way you can protect your head is to duck it. And you're standing there, and that first night, when that went off, and that buck sergeant threw me that weapon, you know, a three-striper buck sergeant. He threw me a weapon. He said, "Here, this is your weapon. Remember the number. That's your number. And grab a can of that ammo and follow me." And we ran out to that bunker, and we got in there, and he says, "This is our duty station." He says, "If you see anything come over there, over that runway," he says, "start shooting, because it ain't one of ours." And he was there, and they were overrun in '66 before I got there. Satchel charges. They call them sappers. You know, they'd run in and pull the red cord and blow themselves up next to an airplane. So, you know. So before I got there, the base was overrun. And I left there just before Tet, '68, I left there, and the base got overrun again after I left. So I was there actually a fortunate time. But there was always that fear. Loud noises scare me. Still to this day, loud noises just. When I went from Vietnam to Thailand, the hardest thing for me to adjust to was I didn't hear them 105s shooting off over my head every night, or 175s. Boom, 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 all night long, you know. Or mortars going off. Noise. Just, when I got to Thailand, there was no noise. I couldn't sleep. There was no noise. You didn't hear nothing. You know, just strange. It's quiet. You're not used to it. You had to adjust. How do you adjust when you wake up and know that there's nothing going on? No sirens, no lights. You know, when you're in at night, the sky lights up. There's airplanes up there kicking out flares, lighting up. It looks like daylight when here it is midnight. But there's no light over there at night, so it's dark. I mean, when it's dark, it's dark. You look out over the field, it was dark. If they weren't illuminating the area with the flares, you wouldn't be able to see the runway. All right, that's how dark it was. There's no, most of the time it was overcast. I was in the Central Highlands, Pleiku. I don't know, about 18 miles from Laos. Ho Chi Minh Trail run over there. I had a very good friend that was in the Army. We went to school together. He was just up the street from where I was at the same time. He was with the 4th ID. He was Army. He was a radio operator. Carried a radio on his back. Had 3 radios shot off his back while he was there. You'd think he'd give up that job. The first thing they try to take out is your communications. And if you had any kind of rank, that's what's next. All right? So no one wore anything shiny like the officers. Everything was black. Against a dark uniform, a dark green uniform, you can't tell if it's an officer or this. That. That's how everything looked. Dark. This on the side. You know what that is?
Air Force Command.
Air Force Special Operations Command. Special Ops. We were Special Ops before we even knew what Special Ops was. You know what I'm saying? A lot of us had to go to different schools to be in this outfit. They shipped me straight into it. I didn't even know what an air commando was till I got in it. I didn't know how secret they were. Of course, I had a top secret clearance.
So what job did you do in that command?
In the air, well, just being a mechanic, all right? We're going where they sent you.
Okay.
All right? A lot of times they would send you places that a lot of stuff's still secret today.
Really?
Yeah. Even through the Freedom of Information Act, you can't get some of the stuff. We did an operation there at Pleiku in June 4th of '67. We spent 37 straight hours on that flight line, and we never left it. We ate our meals there. We took naps there, and we all were there. We were turning them airplanes around and shooting them into a battle. They came in with damage on them. If it wasn't damage enough to hold the airplane back, we'd tape the holes up with masking tape or duct tape, and whatever we had. Put fuel and more bombs on the airplane at the same time. You're never supposed to do that. But we did it because we had to have the airplane back out there. And that operation, it took me years to find out what that operation was all about. And some of it's still top secret today. I can't even get more of the information. We lost 2 aircraft and 1 pilot during that operation in 37 hours. We didn't mind losing the airplanes. We didn't like to losing the pilots. That's a hard one. You're talking to a guy and helping him put his shoes on. And there was no rank when we were out there in them kind of conditions. You didn't salute anybody. No, you showed respect, you know, sir. Yeah, you know, you showed respect. You knew who he was. He knew who you were, you know. But they didn't expect him to salute or anything like that, any special attention. You were there to help them. And 9 times out of 10 when they're, and I got pictures helping the guys put their chutes on and the engine's starting up and the smoke flying around and, you know, just constant, every day it was, but you know, that time there was terrible. I mean, all of us, nobody left. So I got a letter. It's in my file. I didn't even know it was there till I got out. And they gave me my file when I got out, and I said, geez, when did they put that in my file? But, you know, they help you get promoted, you know. And they wanted to push me up the ladder of promotions, and to go back over there. I didn't want to go. I left Vietnam and came back to the States. As my wife had told you, and came back. I got stationed in a place called Otis Air Force Base, Cape Cod, Massachusetts. We were working on EC-121s up there. You know what an EC-121 is? It's a 4-engine, big old beast. You remember TWA with the 3 tails on the back of the airplane? We used to call it Teeny Weeny Airlines, but it was Transworld Airlines, all right? That was our overseas flights, that airplane. Looks like a big cigar with wings. They were early warning radar picket ships. So they were up there flying, and the radars go on to make sure that if there's any missiles coming in, they were our early warning. We always had 2 of them airplanes up there on station, and each airplane carried 3 crews. 18-man crews, all right? 3 of them, so 3 times 18, how many people's that in an airplane? But they worked an 8-hour shift. The next guys worked 8 hours, and the other ones would rest or play cards. And then when they couldn't leave the station until an airplane replaced them. When the airplane replaced them, they came back in, and they were off for a couple of weeks, you know. We had a lot of them airplanes up there, maintaining them. So there I am. I'm back from Vietnam. I'm getting ready to celebrate my first Christmas and New Year's in 3 years with my family. You know what they did to me? They sent me temporary duty to Reykjavik, Iceland. Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. I came back from there, and they said, Sergeant Lanning? I said, yeah, we have orders on you. You had it on headquarters. I said, oh, where am I going? Overseas? Yeah, overseas. Oh, okay. So I go down there and I ask the guy, I said, well, where's the orders for? And he says, Vietnam. I said, well, you can't do that to me. I just came back from there. Oh, but Sergeant Lanning, you didn't serve a whole year in Vietnam. I went to an NKP, Nakam Phanom, in Thailand in the last 2 months there, 2.5 months. So I didn't serve a year in Vietnam. They're going to send me back. I said, no, that's it. I'm done. 12 years, goodbye. Got out. No job, no nothing, just, I did not want to go back there. And I didn't. Do I regret it? Who knows? I wanted to stay in 20 years, but I didn't want to go back there. By that time I had 4 children. Because I had one going up in Massachusetts, up there at Cape Cod. But you know, it was that duty assignment. It would have been a good assignment, you know, for, I've known guys that spend their whole assignment in one base. I was never one of them guys. Every year, every 2 years, I was gone. Not that they wanted to get rid of me, but it just worked that way. It just was my turn, I guess. Maybe I got on someone's bad list. Who knows? But you know, the longest I was ever any place was 2 years in Turkey. Almost 2 years in New York. 2 years in Philippine Islands. 1 year every place else. It's gone. It's a hard life for a family. It is. It's harder on her than it was on me. Like I say, back then we didn't get no help. There was no aid, any kind. We didn't have instant access. We had snail mail, How many people know snail mail? It didn't cost us anything to write a letter. We could write it on a piece of cardboard. As long as it had an address on it, they'd see that it got back to our family. But a lot of times I wasn't even allowed to write. I couldn't tell them where I was. I couldn't tell them what was going on. Couldn't tell them about all them scary nights. Stand there shaking your boots, and you don't know what's going on. Just waiting for all hell to break loose. It's hard. It takes a lot out of you. And that's why I didn't want to go back there. I would have done anything to stay in the States, and I did. I just got out. Gave them 12 years of my life. I loved the military, don't get me wrong. I really loved what I was doing. I loved being a mechanic. When I got out, I was what they call a 7-level technician, all right? And I was in charge of people. I had 22 guys working for me up in Otis Air Force Base. 22 guys. And I was telling them what to do. And I was the guy they looked up to. But I didn't ask for that position. I worked hard to get up there, but I accepted it. And in the military, you're always training the next guy to take your place. That's your job. You're training that next guy to take your place. You want him to take your place. You want him to advance up a ladder. You want him to do good. If he does good, you did good. You did your job. And that's what I considered the Air Force at the time. It was a job. I did it. I did it the best of my ability. Sometimes way above what I was supposed to be doing, all right? But I did it because they asked me to do it. And gladly did it. I, could have died over there. I had friends that never came back. Whenever I go down and see that wall in Washington, D.C., I can't help myself. Friends who didn't come back. What do you do for them? You grieve. They're the heroes. They gave it all. I just did my job. It was tough. It's easier today. Like I say, when I got out of the military, I didn't have anything. I had a job to look forward to, nothing. I got a job in a machine shop. I made foreman in 6 weeks because I was dependable and knew what I was doing. All right? And they knew I knew how to handle people from my experience in the military. So I climbed right up ranks. I was the last one to leave that shop when they closed. They left me there to help sell the machinery when they left. They left me without a job to look forward to. So I found a job while I was waiting for them to get rid of me. A job driving a truck, a rubbish truck in Cleveland, Ohio. So I took that job. The guy says, "How well do you know Cleveland?" Yeah, I told him, I know pretty well. I didn't know the first thing about Cleveland. I drove around with a road map. But I learned. In about a year there, he knew I was a mechanic. He asked me to be his mechanic. So I was his mechanic. He made me his mechanic because his mechanic quit. And I was a mechanic and a spare driver, all right? I knew all the routes because I had to go and chase the guys down when they were broke down. So I knew all the routes, and if someone didn't show up or they were sick, they would call me. Can you do the run? Yeah, okay. So when I did the run, then when I finished the run, I had to come and work on them trucks to get them ready to go the next day. So I put in long hours there too. Long hours.
Did they pay you well?
Well, they paid me well, yeah. A lot better than I was getting in the machine shop.
Good.
It was like, when I started the machine shop, I was making $2.50 an hour. It was good money, $2.50 an hour. Yeah. So when I started working there driving truck, the guy paid me 10. Wow, you know.
Hoy, hoy.
There you go. Then I made mechanic and jumped my pay up, all right? But I was mechanic spare driver. One of my best friends, that one I was talking about, she got the radio shot off his back, came to work for this company, the same company, as a driver. So one Thursday he comes in off a run, he says, Earl, he says, I feel like old man, Dave. Dave was 42 years old. He says, I feel like old man. I said, Dave, we're getting old. The next day my boss called me up. Can you drive Dave's run tomorrow? Sure. Is he sick? Yeah, he's sick. Called in sick. I said, okay. So I drove his run. That was on a Friday. Sunday, my boss called me. Can you drive Dave's run Monday? Yeah, okay. Is he still sick? No, he died yesterday. From Thursday to Sunday, just died, full of cancer. Agent Orange got him. Just full of cancer. That was hard. I went to school with the guy. He was a nom at the same time I was. He was a ground pounder out there walking the jungles. I had a nice secure base, safe. Yeah, it wasn't safe, but it was safer than where he was. We gotta stop this for a minute.
Okay.
I gotta go to the restroom. Serious.
Okay.
I do have.
Okay. So how long did you fill Dave's position? Did they hire somebody pretty quickly?
Oh yeah, there's always someone out there looking for a job, you know. The drivers didn't get really paid as much as the mechanic did, but you know.
Still not too bad. I'm terribly sorry that you lost your good friend.
Oh, well, I had one that I ran around with in Vietnam. It took me years and years and years when I came back, and I finally found out where he was. See, he stayed in, and they sent him back. Very same place. Of course, they give him a little more rank, but you know. But the very same place he left, they sent him back to. Same outfit. Could you imagine that? Go back over there. Oh, and they're going to do that to you again? Separate you from your family and not even let your family know where you're at? That was hard. You know, don't give me, I know. That was hard. That was the hardest part, being separated. Who's taking care of your family while you're over there? That was hard. Good thing for families. But, you know, anyway, Dave, yeah. You know, I worked for that company for 22 years as a mechanic and driver. So when I left there, the guy cried. My boss cried because I was leaving. He says, I guess I'm going to have to start paying my help a little better, ain't I? I said, if you want to keep him, you better pay him. So I wasn't leaving for the money. I just left. Went up north, Wisconsin, Superior. Didn't even have a job. Just left. You know, all of my kids were gone. You know, they flew the nest. Right there. The last one there was my youngest. And she was born there in Geneva, Ohio. And I lived in Madison a while. I had to sell a house to get her to leave. She was going to stay, you know, she was almost 30, you know. I said, well.
So Did you need a job when you left? Because this should have been, retirement and...
I wasn't quite ready to retire. Let's see, I moved up there in '96.
What did your wife do? Was she okay with this move? I mean, you went from cold to colder, so...
Yeah, she went. We went up there. I had family up there.
Okay.
And we were up there visiting one time, and a guy told me how cheap the land was, So there's a big chunk of land sitting next to him, and I bought it. But it didn't cost hardly anything, all right? So I bought it, went back down home, told my boss I was leaving, I'm going to start life somewhere else. Like I say, he cried when I left. He actually cried. Tears almost made me cry. It's two ways. Worked for him a long time. We're like brothers. not boss and mechanic. He was my boss, but she's just my friend too. We're close. But, yeah, we moved up there, bought that piece of land. They didn't have, like I said, they didn't have a job. I got a job driving a truck, dump truck, working construction, highways, building roads.
Back to your roots.
Yeah, building roads, yeah. Started from scratch, but this time I was driving a truck and hauling gravel and sand and, doing things I never thought I'd be doing. And, but the job was tough. We only got paid if we were on a job. We didn't get paid till we got our first load on the truck. Then our pay started. And we dropped that last load of the day, then the pay period ended. Now they didn't pay you to get to that job. That was on your own. You left your truck there, you serviced your own truck.
No.
All right? You serviced your own truck and drove it to them. It was a tough job. So my wife was looking around. I made up resumes, all right, as a mechanic, and she was sending these things all over. I didn't know she was doing that, all right. She wanted me to have a better job than that, what we were doing, and the money was not, like I say, when it rained, you didn't work. I mean, you went, you were ready, but you were working for the state. They're the ones who control what goes on, So if it rained, you didn't work. Yeah. So you didn't get paid. Some days you didn't get paid for a week, 2 weeks. But anyway, my wife started sending these resumes out. Then people started calling me looking for mechanics. So I had a lot of offers, different places, high paying, some of them. I took one that was not so high in pay, working for a Mack truck dealership. I said, even if I got to start at a lower pay, I can work my way up in this place. There's a chance for advancement. So I took that job. And, I advanced. One of my buddies up there, he was all the time asking the boss for a pay raise. All the time. So we were going up to eat lunch one day, and the big boss was up from he was down in Mankato, down around Twin Cities. We were up in Duluth, Minnesota. That was where I worked, in Duluth, Minnesota. So Bob and I are going up for lunch. And the big boss stuck his head out the door of the office, and we were already started up the steps to our lunch area was upstairs. And the big boss called my name. He said, "Earl." I said, "Yeah." He says, "How'd you like a pay raise?" I said, "Yeah, oh, that'd be nice." He said, "Okay, we're giving you $2 more an hour." So I went upstairs with Bob. We sat down. He says, "Geez, I'm begging for a pay raise. I get a pay raise. How come you come out and they give you a pay raise?" I said, "I don't ask for them. I said, I just do my job." Do what they want, That was something. How do you get that big pay raise? I said, "Well, I didn't ask for it."
How long did you work for Mac?
I worked there for, I think, 12 years. I got injured there.
Okay.
I didn't get injured there. My first injury was, I was getting ready to cut my grass, so I'd been over to pick up a tree branch that had fallen on a tree. I didn't want to run over with my lawnmower. When I bent over, I threw my back out. Blew a disc. L2. Hurt. Boy, you wouldn't believe the pain.
I do believe the pain.
It really, really hurt. My wife took me to the hospital, and I couldn't even drive. She took me to the hospital, and she drove, and we pulled up the emergency room, and opened it. She opened the door, and I got out, and there was a sign there that said no parking. All right. I hugged that sign. I couldn't walk. I hugged it, and they brought a gurney out. They put me on a gurney and took me in there, and they gave me a shot, kind of took the pain away. But I talked to a surgeon, and he did surgery on me. He didn't do surgery right away. He said he would wait and put me in physical therapy. So I went 4 months of physical therapy. And I kept telling the physical therapist, I said, well, there's something going wrong here. I says, I don't feel nothing in my right leg. She said, oh, that's your conception of pain. I said, listen, lady, I know what pain is. This ain't pain. I said, I don't feel something. Something's wrong. Oh, no, it's just your mind telling you you're in pain. So she gave me this test to do, go up steps. I could not get up that step. She looks at me, she says, well, there's something wrong with you. I said, that's what I've been telling you. So she sent me back to my doctor. And so my doctor says, and I'm sitting there on his exam table, I'm sitting on the exam table, and he says to me, do you think it might be all up here? Oh, almost. My wife told me, she said she thought I was going to come off that table and deck him. So he said, I can run one more test on you. I said, okay, what's that? He says, they'd already done MRIs. He couldn't read the MRI, the doctor. I get one more test I can do on you. So he sent me to a nerve ending specialist. And this guy stuck needles in me. Long needles. That long. Up inside my legs, into my nerves. That hurt too. So when he got finished with his test, I says, how soon do I know when I get the results of this test you just did? He says, I can tell you right now, you shouldn't be able to walk. I said, well, that's great news. I'm walking. Not very good. So I left his office, and I'm going down the hospital, and I get the elevator to hit the floor to go down to the basement to leave. And who's in the elevator? My doctor. He says, oh, he said, did you have that test? And I said, yeah. He said, what did the doctor say? What did he say? He says, I shouldn't be able to walk. He says, my L2 disc that I blew into my spinal cord and was severing my spinal cord. That's why I didn't have no feeling in my leg. So then I went to a surgeon. And he says, where's your MRIs? I says, I don't know, the doctor's got them. I don't have them. He says, I have to see them. He said, I tell you what, he says, this was on a Tuesday. He says, you come back here tomorrow morning, I'll have your MRIs, and then we'll talk. So the next morning we go in there, yeah, he had my MRIs. So he's looking at the MRI, and he's pointing this out and pointing that out. And, for me, if it was explaining a truck or transmission or something, I'd understand it. But I didn't understand what he was talking about, all right? I couldn't see what he was seeing. But he operated on me, he told me to get me back to work. And he did, he got me back to work. So I went back to work. I blew a right knee.
You didn't go back and smack that doctor?
No, I felt like it. Well, he don't work there no more. Shortly after my case, he was let go.
Oh, so you couldn't sue?
He was gone. He went to Canada.
Again, so you couldn't sue?
Right. Yeah. Suing to me is just, I don't even think about things like that.
The hospital is trying to save their tail.
So I went back to work, all right?
Mm-hmm.
And I blew my knee out at work. Dude, I was working on an engine doing something, and I just turned wrong, and my foot planted, and the foot didn't swivel, and I twisted the knee and tore a meniscus, all right? So, I didn't really think anything of it, I said, well, it hurt a little bit, So I went and told the girl in the office. I says, I twisted my knee. I says, it feels a little funny. And my boss looked at me, he says, come on, he says, I'll take you over to the clinic. So he took me over to the clinic. I got over there, and he says, you have to pull your pants down. We want to x-ray your knee. We don't want your pants in the way. So I pulled my pants down, and my leg was, you couldn't tell where my knee was. It was as thick as my thigh, from my thigh all the way to my ankle, right? I said, holy cow. So what happened to my leg? So they took pictures, and then they told me I had to elevate that and get the swelling down before they could do anything. So the knee doctor they did arthroscopic knee surgery. And so he says to me, if anything happens to this knee, next time you're going to have a knee replacement. There's no two ways of getting around it. You've got a bad knee. I said, oh, okay. So I went back to work. He didn't want me to go back to work right away. But he did release me if I changed my job. So I told him at work he won't let me come back to work unless I change my job. He didn't want me working on engines and transmissions anymore. He says, okay, so they moved me into a parts department, selling parts. The whole thing is in the parts department, you have to put them parts on a shelf, and a lot of them are heavy. So we had a shipment come in, and my boss in the parts department says, Earl, take it and put that stuff away where it belongs. So I went over and I picked up a truck starter. Now, a truck starter weighs 68 pounds. Not counting the packing that's packed around it, but 68 pounds that starter weight. So I picked that starter up. I walked upstairs where they store them. And as I was going upstairs, I was all right until I got to the top of the stairs. And the night man had forgot to put away 3 air compressors, and they were sitting there, and I'm carrying that starter, and I didn't see the air compressors. So I tripped over them and fell down. So I got up and I looked, and I said a few nasty words, under my breath. And I picked up my starter and I put it on the shelf, and I went back and I took them 3 air compressors and put them where they belong on the shelf. And I went back downstairs, picked up another truck starter, and went back upstairs and almost got to the top, and all of a sudden I felt, I says, oh no, not again. So I carried the truck, I finished carrying the truck starter, I put it on the shelf, and then I went downstairs and went in the office, and I told the girl, something just happened to my back. I don't know what happened, but right now it's not too bad. I'll go home and take some muscle relaxers and painkillers, and I'll be ready to go tomorrow. I blew 4 discs. All my L's were gone. So I blew S1, L2 was already gone. I blew S1, L5, L4, L3, and L1, all of them. So I went back to my surgeon. He looked at me and said, okay. He went in and repaired the damage. So I was out of work for almost a year, drawing workman's comp. I went back to see my doctor to get a release to go to work. He looked at me and he says, you're not going to work. I said, what? He says, you're not going back to work. I says, I gotta work. I'm not ready to retire. I'm only 62. He says, you're not going to work. You leave my office, you go file for disability. He says, they can't refuse you. I go down there, Social Security. Well, meanwhile, my caseworker was coming in. She was supposed to be with me when I met the doctor. She was late. I'm leaving. She's coming in. She says, "What did the doctor say?" He told me file for disability. So I went down to Social Security, and I said to the lady, I said, "My doctor told me to come down here and file for disability." She said, "How old are you?" And I said, 62. She says, "You know, it takes a long time to get that disability." She says, "I'm going to put you on retirement at 62. Social Security." I said, "Oh, okay." While you're waiting for that thing to go through. So I said, okay. So I go back home, and then I get a letter from the insurance company that was paying for all my bills while I was off. Said, "You voluntarily retired, so we're stopping your money from being paid anything because you voluntarily retired." I said, "I did not voluntarily retire." "Oh, yes, you did." Then I went and got a lawyer. First time I ever thought about getting a lawyer, I did it then. And he wrote a letter to somebody and said, "You can't do that to this guy." And they reinstated me, you know, getting paid every week. I was still getting paid. Paid me back pay. So they sent me a check. There's supposed to be a final payment, something like $3,000. I took it to the lawyer and I says, "What am I doing with this?" I said, "Look what this is." He says, "Nowhere in there it says that you're finished with your claim." He says, I said, "Well, what do I do with this check?" He said, "If I was you," he says, "I'd spend it and have fun." I did. I went on vacation. I came back, and meanwhile, he filed all the paperwork, and they sued the company for $42,000. But I was done working.
Okay.
Then I moved here.
Well, welcome back to Ohio.
Yeah.
What are some life lessons that you've learned from your military service?
From my military,
Mm-hmm.
I would have to say discipline.
Okay.
You know, how to discipline yourself. How to take them little defeats, you know, and live with it. How to forgive yourself. The hardest thing is memories. You can't wipe your memory clean. When I think of, like earlier when I started to cry, that really affects me. It still does. I can't just walk away and say, "Hey, I don't remember that." I do remember that. The hardest thing I ever did was have a guy get an etching off that wall and hand it to me. Then that's when I really broke down. When he handed me that etching and I looked at it, and I just could not hold it. I just cried like a baby. And I still tear up when I think about that. But military, you know, they taught me how to live, how to overcome, how to improvise, how to get things when you don't have them, you know, how to do things, how to get people to help you, you know, or you help other people. I do a lot of volunteer work, still to this day. When I wasn't working up there in Minnesota and I wasn't allowed to work, I volunteered to drive a van down to the new Twin Cities. It's 124 miles one way, all right? You know what my pay was? A meal ticket. $2.64, a meal ticket. That was my pay. But I volunteered to do that. And them guys tried to pay you. I said, "I can't take the money. You can't give me any money. I'm not allowed to take your money." I said, "This is a free service. It's paid for by Disabled American Veterans of America. They pay me." They didn't really pay me. My pay was gratitude, you know, pat on the back, good job. You know, but I did that. I enjoyed doing that, helping other guys, helping them with their problems. You know, a lot of them were sick, World War guys, you know, just couldn't even walk, half of them, you know. 15 guys in the van. Make that run down there. I'd get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, go warm my van up, because, you know, it's cold. Get it started, warm it up, then I'd go pick the guys up. And then we'd go to the cities. We'd get there about 9 o'clock in the morning. Most appointments start at 9. Most of them ended at 2:30 or 3. We had to be out of the cities before 3 o'clock to beat the rush hour, or we'd never get home in a reasonable time. We still got home late, be late at night. But I enjoyed doing that. When I moved over here, I volunteered here at the senior center, delivering Meals on Wheels. You know, a lot of them people you deliver the meals to, they don't really care about that meal. They have someone to talk to, someone to listen. That's all they care about. They just wanted to talk. I don't have time to talk. If I take time to talk, someone gets a cold meal, you know. So, you know, you had to keep it short, but they understood. But most of the times they didn't care about the meal. They just wanted someone to talk to. Old people. Beautiful people, you know, just, but they can't get around, you know. Most of them are in walkers or wheelchairs or caretakers. But they enjoyed having someone come in and say, "Hi, how are you doing?" And they couldn't thank you enough for delivering a meal, but really they wanted to thank you for just being there to talk. I love doing it, I still do it. But right now I don't have a special run, I fill in. Seems like I fill in, someone always calls in sick when it rains. Imagine that. I enjoy it though, my wife helps me too. We drive along. You know, she supported me for a long time up there in Wisconsin. She worked, she had a job. I didn't, you know. Especially when I was driving that truck. I never knew when I was going to work.
That's fantastic.
And she worked, you know, she did house cleaning and she worked in the hospital and, you know, worked in restaurants and, you know, just whatever she could do, you know. Same thing she was doing when I was off to the wars and places where I couldn't contact her. She was working. She was taking care of the kids. She was doing something. You know, she just wasn't sitting around. She finally had to retire. She worked here at Walmart's as a cashier. When it was the old Walmart's over in Beaver Creek, over in Senior. They put the new one in, then she moved over there. But she finally had to retire, you know, age catching up on her.
Okay.
I have 5 children. One lives up in Superior, Wisconsin. Oldest boy lives in Germany. My oldest daughter lives there in Beaver Creek, but she works in Tacoma, Washington. My youngest daughter lives up in Bay Village, the west side of Cleveland. And my other daughter lives down in Georgia, Atlanta. So they're scattered all over. I did all I could for my children, you know.
I'm sure they love you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a good dad. You're a good airman too.
But you know, a lot of times I was away, you know, a lot of times they didn't even know me.
That doesn't mean that they don't know that you love them.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure they know it now.
Sure.
Absolutely. What message would you like to leave for future generations that will view or hear this interview?
You know, to me, honor and country, all right? I love my country. I really do. My wife probably doesn't, but she's more patriotic than I am. She bought me this shirt the other day when I went to the Air Force Museum. You know, hey, would you wear that? Yeah, I'll wear it. You buy it. She bought it. I wear it. But, you know, she's patriotic. She flies the flags. And, you know, I still am. I fly a flag in my backyard. POWMIA flag right underneath it. They're not forgotten. I still remember them. You know, we remember. We won't let them, you know, be forgotten.
Absolutely not.
The younger generations, you know, I look at these guys, these military people nowadays, and, you know, their deployments. They're going every year. Go a year, come back. Go a year, come back. See, that's what it was changing to when I was in Vietnam. Go a year, come back. Go a year, come back. I didn't want that lifestyle. I wanted to plant my feet down, and raise my family, so they would, yeah, hey, that's Dad. When I moved from Massachusetts to Ohio, when I got out of the military, my two oldest children, they wanted to hold them back in school because they couldn't understand them with that accent they had from Massachusetts to Boston. They had Boston drawl, just packed the car. The teachers couldn't understand them. They wanted to pull them back. I said, no, you ain't holding them back. They're smart kids. They'll catch on. Just got to listen to them a little close, so you don't understand the brogue, They'll pick up your language. They'll start speaking like you do.
Eventually. Right.
Love my kids.
Okay.
They grounded me. I went to visit my son 4 years ago in Germany. My wife fell and broke her leg. Femur, 2 inches below the hip. 2 places.
Is she okay?
She got a steel rod in her leg. She uses a walker, but she's getting along.
All right.
Yeah.
That's really, really good.
So our kids grounded us. We ain't allowed to go overseas no more.
Oh.
All those kids. My daughter.
The young man can fly this way, right?
Well, he's coming in this month, 29th.
All right, awesome.
Of course, I had to pay for him.
Wow.
But, I want to see him,
That's
What's
true.
a little bit of money?
You can't take it with you.
No.
Okay. So, thank you so much for coming and
Thank you
sitting
for
down with
asking.
me. This will conclude our interview with Earl Lanning. Thank you for your time and for your military service. I appreciate it very much.
I would do it all again.